Alrighty, kiddos. Hello, and welcome to our very, very first kind of flipped lesson. So, what we're going to be talking about today is kind of an inquiry. We're going to be thinking and talking, and you're going to be doing a lot of your own teaching. So, we're going to do this kind of by looking at an exemplar sixth grade writer. And yes, I'll say this writer is a sixth grader. She's from New York, so she's your age. We're going to look at her essay about Raymond's Run, and I'm going to give you a couple of things to think about, and it'll be rocking and rolling. So you should pull out your YouGoes Mentor text that I gave you today, and we're just going to kind of read through this together and just think and notice and find things that we think that she does well. So we're going to start off right here where it says, in this story, Raymond's Run by Toni Cade Bambara, Squeaky, the protagonist, is a hard person to love. She's a hard person to love because she has a negative outlook on life, because she's always looking for a fight, and because she's conceited. The most obvious reason why Squeaky is hard to love is because she has a negative outlook on life. So I'm going to pause there for a second, and I'm going to highlight that very, very first line. We're going to highlight that. And the reason why I'm going to highlight that is because I think this author, Yuko, does an excellent job of not just doing the first reason, she uses the most obvious reason. So if you kind of remember from our claim, your very, very last reason should be your strongest. So maybe think about adding some different transitions in there. So going on, she says, whenever she mentions someone, it seems like they're always stupid or a fool. Also, Squeaky thinks that everyone is out to get her and Raymond. For example, when she is walking down the street and runs into some girls she knows, right away she starts thinking awful things about them. Like that Mary Louise isn't grateful, and that Rosie is too stupid to know there's not a big difference between her and Raymond. So I'm going to go highlight all of that. The reason why I'm highlighting this is because I think that Yuko does a really, really good job of paraphrasing. I noticed a lot of us had some trouble with paraphrasing, and so this I think she does a really good job because it's not just one line. She takes an entire section, an entire scene, and condenses it down into a sentence. She does a really, really good job of really thinking, okay, this is what happened. How do I make it one sentence? So I think she does an awesome job there. So continuing on, she says, Squeaky doesn't think kind thoughts about people, and she doesn't act kindly towards them either. We have all heard the phrase, you can't love anyone else until you love yourself. In this story, we see that the opposite might be true too. It's impossible to be lovable if you don't show any love towards others. So I'm going to put a bracket around there. And the reason why I'm going to put a bracket around that is because that's her explanation. That's her this show sentence. And I don't know if you noticed, but she doesn't actually say the words this shows or because. And in fact, this explanation is actually 3 sentences. She does a really, really good job of going beyond the text. It's not just a restatement of the reason or of the example. It's her own thoughts of, hey, here's this phrase, here's how it ties in. So I want you to think about for your text is how do you think outside the box? If you say that Grace is imaginative and here's an example, how does that example tie in to her trait and to her reason, if that makes sense? So this explanation should tie this part, the example, into the reason, into the trait. All 3 of those should be tied in together. So I'm going to erase this real fast. Okay, that's not what I thought that was going to do. Anyways, so to kind of help you with this analysis part, I'm going to give you this lovely little thing. So, oops, there we go. Yes, I want to erase. So here is a handy dandy little chart for you of ways to analyze your evidence. We've all seen the this shows because statement. Because here's other things you can use to help. It's important to notice that blank means blank, therefore blank. So that would be used like being courageous means standing up for those who are beneath you. Therefore, Song Ho is courageous because he changes the way society thinks about Sangmen people. This is significant because even though blank, the character blank. So even though Callie may have to sell her stuff, she proves that she's brave because she really works through those things. So what your task is today is I want you to go through the rest of Yuko's mentor writing And I want you to highlight and underline and jot in the margins things you think Yuko does well, things you would want to try in your own writing. Because your recap for today is going to be name 3 things that Yuko does well and how you're going to apply it to your own writing. Tomorrow we are going to go through and work on your outlines a little bit more, and we're going to flash draft. So really start thinking about how can you apply this and what Yuko does well to your own writing. So that's all I've got for today. So make sure you do your recap and have a great night.